Hi, everybody. Welcome back to yet another rendezvous. And this time I have a very special guest with me. His name is Captain Vishwas Patwardhan. And on behalf of Toehold, I'm very grateful for somebody like him to be a part of some of the expeditions that we have been to. I personally have been with him to many places, including Antarctica, Svalbard. He has been to places like Kamchatka, Africa, and I'm sure many parts of India. I've been with him to different places in India as well. Here's a small chat I want to have with him to understand about his journey as a photographer, what he does photography for, what gives him the pleasure, what kind of gear he uses, what's his goal with photography. I also know he takes photography seriously. He uses it all the time to showcase it to the common man, which is also a purpose of his. I want to talk about his compassion for animals in general, wildlife conservation, all of that. So, without further ado, welcome Captain Vishwas Patwardhan. We'll call him as Captain from here on.
Thank you, Jayant. It's nice to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sparing time. I'm sure it's been a tough time last year and a half. How have you been so far?
We've been good. This has been really, really tough. Especially the second wave was even tougher when the pandemic and the people affected by it were not just merely numbers, but all the numbers got names to them.
True.
So it became a lot tougher.
Absolutely. How is the situation in Pune?
It's improving day by day.
Okay. Right.
So hopefully,
Right. Wonderful. All right, Captain. Thank you. What I want to do in the end of this, chat with you, rendezvous as we call it, I want people to get inspired by some thought process of people like yours. I've already done a couple of other chat sessions with people like you who have been traveling with us. So I just want to let our viewers know about you from the horse's mouth. Give us a background about your life as a professional and what do you do currently and how you got into photography and especially wildlife photography.
Sure. Background in absolute brief will be like I joined the Merchant Navy and have been connected with the sea for 41 years.
Right.
From 1977 to 2018, that's when I, decided to call it quits and come back ashore for good. And it's been a fantastic journey, a journey which actually made me travel around the world. I have been to, I think it's the present count is about 106 countries around the world.
Wow.
And some of the experiences are really fascinating.
Right.
And that's when my photography actually started, maybe just about the time when I joined sea actually.
Oh,
now, of course, I didn't have money to buy a good camera. So my first purchase was a Kodak Instamatic, which I bought, I think, somewhere in Egypt in 1979.
That's even before I was born. Wow.
Yeah. So,
right.
And then I just wanted to have some memories of the places I've been to, because I knew there would be lots of places I would never go again.
Right.
So maybe just, like even a couple of photographs of every place or something. So I still have all those photographs and I have memories spanning over 40 years from across the continents, all over the world.
Sure.
So,
but how did it evolve into the current form of your interest in photography? It seems to be pretty serious wildlife photography as a endeavor.
Yes, actually, see what happened is I don't have like any arts or similar background to fall back on or to an artistic background.
Right.
So what I realized that a lot of people used to tell me that somehow your photographs look a lot better than what we see from others.
Right.
So I just gathered that maybe there is something, some kind of an inherent or genetic knack that I have in me. So I decided to expand on it. And photography per se wildlife photographers in those days were probably I didn't know of anyone.
Right.
I hadn't even
Right.
heard of anyone.
True.
So the best way to learn photography was to actually learn from photographers in my city close to my home.
Right.
And the only ones I had come across were those studio photographers who would either take your wedding photographs or portraits or passport and visa photographs or something similar.
True.
But even then, looking at those umbrellas, looking at the light, how they play around with light, how to do the makeup, what are they looking at? So I just approached a couple of them, and one of them agreed to take me on as an understudy. Though I
Right.
was a sailing captain, I used to
Mhm.
go early in the morning. I used to sweep the floor. I used to work in the studio the whole day just to
Right.
get the hang of things so that I could
Fantastic.
be in, So then that's how I slowly developed. I tried to, somewhere in the early 90s, I bought my first SLR. And then I
Right.
started, when I was working with these, I tried a couple of photo shoots for portraits and fashion photography and stuff like that. And these things went on. I worked with these studios for nearly 2 months.
Right.
A
Right.
couple of them, one in Mumbai and one here in Pune. And then somewhere in 2000, early or late 90s, 2000, I was offered to do an official photo shoot for Miss India for the Pune section.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, okay.
So the Pune section, Miss India, I covered that year.
Okay.
Which was followed by some assignments with Mercedes-Benz for the launch of the C
Right.
class series, and also an assignment with Bacardi.
Right. Right.
So that went on for a few months, and these girls used to keep coming to me even later for their photo shoots and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
And frankly, I was so disillusioned by the artificiality of the entire thing.
Okay. You mean the fashion industry?
The fashion industry. I mean,
Okay.
everything what I came across was fake. I mean, there's nothing natural about it. I mean, I somehow got so
Pun
disillusioned
intended.
with it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, so
Right.
somehow or the other, like, I wasn't too happy with what I was doing actually. And
Right.
this was also happening during my leave period. I was still sailing. So I used to sail for 6 months, 8 months in a year. And those whatever 3-4 months I used to get at home, I used to dabble in this kind of photography.
Right. Right.
So it was only after, though I did experiment with wildlife and stuff like that in the mid 2000s.
Right.
With an SLR and maybe a lens spanning not more than 300 mm. That to a zoom lens, I think it was a Tamron 18300 or 18270 or something like that.
Right.
I'm not very sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't too sure whether to invest in professional lenses or how to go about it before I actually, decided to make a plunge into it.
Right.
So I did like Kenya, Tanzania in the mid 2000s. And that's when I realized that, somehow these run-of-the-mill tour operators, they were not for me.
Okay.
I was looking at something which was specifically towards photography per se, in the sense, like when I go on a photography tour, I don't really care about what kind of breakfast I'm going to get or what kind of dinner I'm going to get or whether I'm going to go hungry the whole day, hungry and thirsty the whole day. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
What matters is what you're going there for. So for that, if you have to skip a few things and do a bit hardship, then so be it.
Right.
Because without any hardship or without any of these things that the work that you put in, wildlife is something which is not going to come to you on a platter.
Correct.
It's not like let's plan a shoot tomorrow at 4:30 in the afternoon, and we will do this and we'll have soft boxes and we'll have this kind of light and we'll have this kind of settings. Wildlife is something which will require lots and lots of patience.
Right.
And that's when I decided to actually Google for someone who did, and that's, I mean, just a coincidence. While searching online, the first thing that popped up on the search was Toehold.
Oh, I see. Oh, I didn't know that.
Actually, so that is actually how I came to Toehold.
Oh,
It was not by
fabulous,
because
fabulous.
someone told me, or just out of
Right,
my
right.
search on the internet, when even internet wasn't probably in the infancy stage those days. But
Right,
even then,
right. Fantastic. I mean, I'm so proud and glad to have somebody like you travel with us. And you're one of our super patrons. So, I mean, have you been to some of the most exotic destinations, especially with me, like Antarctica, Svalbard, Kamchatka, and stuff like that? We'll talk about all of them in a bit. But um, with your photography itself so far, I do know after Antarctica or probably after Svalbard or something, you organized an exhibition. I know you sent me an invite and you said you were exhibiting pictures in Pune, inviting the locals around and showing them the stories of all these places. So can you tell us how do you use your pictures and what has been some of your notable achievements in this area?
see, there are two things. One is I wanted to showcase or at least bring myself on the photography stage here in my city.
Mm-hmm.
And second was I wanted to introduce some of these exotic places
Mm-hmm.
to people who would probably never get a chance to see them.
Right.
And when you're talking about places like Antarctica, Svalbard, or Kamchatka, I know a few people in Pune where I was like very, very surprised
Mm-hmm.
in their early 20s and who had not even seen the ocean or the sea in their life.
Right.
So they had never even been to Mumbai.
Right. Right.
So
Oh my goodness.
Antarctica and these places were something out of the world.
True.
At the same time, it's also my intention to bring awareness to the youngsters, the future,
Right.
about preserving our planet mainly, and
Mm.
what effect the global warming per se is having on
Sure.
the rest of the world.
Right, right. We're going to talk about the conservation things a little later. I don't want to spill the beans right
Sure.
away.
Yeah. So
But
this
tell us
photography
about this
exhibition.
exhibition.
So this
Yeah.
exhibition thing was I had printed about maybe around 50 or 60 photographs,
Right.
as large as 6 feet by 4 feet,
Wow.
and people really appreciated. There were about this was there for 3 days, and I had a turnaround around 3,000, 4,000 people at the
Wow,
exhibition.
that's fantastic. That's
And
fantastic.
about out of those 50, 60 photographs, I think almost all, except for 10 which I have with me, were all sold.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
And my selling was only at cost price. I wasn't planning to make any profit out of it.
Right.
So a lot of these photographs are exhibited in some of the major hospitals in Pune.
Oh, I see. I see.
And some are private collection also, but most of them are in a very famous hospital in Pune.
Right. In fact, one of my doctors who's a Toehold patron as well, she was telling me you improve the mental health of people, and I was wondering, wow, that's a very serious thought. People do get the pleasure of seeing some beautiful sights from across the globe, and I'm sure 3,000 is not a small number. It's immense. So that's a great achievement, I must say.
Thank you.
So talking about photography, I do know what gear you use, but for the sake of our viewers, can you tell us what camera gear you currently embrace? What kind of lenses do you have? And do you have any plans of, expanding your lineup? Tell us a little bit about your gear, please.
Yeah, I have still not moved to mirrorless because I have two full frame bodies, Canon 5D Mark III and 5D Mark IV.
Right.
Then I have a 2470 2.8, a 70-200 2.8, a 300 2.8, also a macro 100 2.8. So you can call me a 2.8 man probably.
Fantastic. I'm not surprised.
And I do rent the big guns when I go on a specific trip. Because personally for me, I don't find the need, because I don't do that much photography on a daily basis.
Right.
So instead of investment of this magnitude in a particular lens, I always find it better to rent it out. And
absolutely. And also the depreciation and maintenance.
Yes, of
now
course.
see, for example, 1.5 years it will be sitting in the dehumidifier or the what can I say, the the box which will
The
be in
box,
the
yeah.
house. Yeah. Anyway, so are you thinking about moving to mirrorless in the near future, or do you think if it was not the pandemic, it was normal times, you would by now already have moved? What's your roadmap?
I'm not really sure because
Mm,
see, anything that is like
mm,
mirrorless now is
mhm.
still an improvement. I mean, whatever is happening, it has to be improvement. It can't be a
Right.
backward curve.
Mhm.
So mirrorless is the way to go, frankly.
Mm, mm, mm.
But then if you look at the positives, if you look at the camera body being lighter,
Right. Mhm.
then with the adapter, and because most of the weight, what I am concerned with is the weight of the lens right now, not that
True.
of the body.
True.
So
Mhm.
for me, it's not such like it's not going to be an investment in the near future in the sense.
Right.
Till I can continue with this, I will. And of course, my
Mhm.
next is going to be a mirrorless one, but I don't know
Mhm.
when.
Right.
But because when you're talking about these professional bodies and lenses and everything, you're talking about a lot of investment.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
just for a hobby or a passion,
Mhm.
uh, it may be worthwhile to invest
Mm,
once and
mhm.
then later on,
True.
move
And
on as and when.
also in these times when we are not able to predict even what's happening
Correct.
next month, it's not worth
Right.
buying something now, I feel. Once things are all okay and we can predict a few months ahead, like for most of the trips you've been on, we start planning a year ahead. We start investing on the trip about 8-10 months ahead, and then now 8-10 months ahead, I'm not even imagining what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So talking about the amazing places you've been to, I mean, I know a few of them that you have been to, especially with me, but I'm sure you would have traveled to even more places. Do you want to recollect some of your amazing instances, moments, encounters in the wild, some beautiful scene that you remember and would like to share with people?
Oh, I mean, there have been many, many such instances. And actually, a photographer knows a lot about the photo he has taken because he knows the story behind it.
Right. Mhm.
And when someone comes to see a photo at the exhibition, they may like a particular photo, which may not be your favorite of the lot,
Mhm. True.
because you have your emotions and the story and what you went through to get that photograph behind every photo,
Right.
frankly.
Mhm. Mhm. True.
So if you look at it that way, then 2017 was a fantastic year for me.
Right.
Started
Mhm.
with 3 full days in Ranthambore,
Right.
and
Mhm.
that probably was our team's record of 50 sightings over three
Wow.
days
Wow.
of
Fantastic.
14 different individual timers.
Fantastic.
That
Wow. Beautiful.
was some amazing summer, and
Mm-hmm.
which was followed by again summer in the south,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
Antarctica in 2017 again.
Right. We went in November, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
right.
Even to Patagonia before Antarctica.
That's
We were
correct.
there for.
In the
Mm-hmm.
Patagonia,
Mm-hmm.
chasing the pumas.
Pumas.
Yeah.
True. Tough trip. Mm.
Yes, of course.
Mm. Right. Right. So what about Svalbard? Do you I mean, I remember that, the trip to Svalbard you were on was probably one of my better trips with the sheer amount of sightings, beautiful photo ops and stuff like that. What do you feel about Svalbard as a destination?
Actually, all these destinations are amazing in their own
Mm-hmm.
way. You can't really say Antarctica is better or Svalbard is better or Kamchatka is better.
True.
They just
True.
cannot compare with each other, and they are all of them are just simply out of the world.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Svalbard is such a different experience, and the sheer landscape and finding the polar bears in their natural habitat itself is,
Right.
something which everyone should be dreaming of, frankly. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. I remember in all the three places, Kamchatka, Svalbard, and Antarctica, as a merchant navy captain, you were curious about the vessels we were on. You were going and checking out the stuff like that. I'm sure in the Russian boat we were on was pretty, not the world standard boat, but then it was doing its job, and I'm sure it was fun to be on these trips with you, especially from the perspective of a captain who was also sharing information about the bridge with us time and again. So I really enjoyed those trips when you were there.
Yeah, it's actually good for me to be on ships when I'm not responsible for the ship. So, so
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure. So when you speak about doing photography for so long, right? Do you think you have a particular style, or do you think there's something that you like to do that gives you joy or satisfaction? What do you feel is the kind of photography that you enjoy doing?
Style wise, I'm not very sure, but if you look at the
Hmm.
genre, then it is, I'll probably be with the nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very
Okay.
broad thing. Nature includes
Right.
wildlife and everything else.
Right.
And
Hmm.
the thing is, what I enjoy most about photography is that however long you be in the field, however long you keep doing photography, I'm still learning.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm still learning a lot.
Hmm.
It's not that you learned everything and you. It's it's a very simple thing like when you go out in the field and you wonder why you took a photo like this. Maybe you come back the next day and you wonder if you could have done better than
True.
what you did yesterday.
True.
So it's a
True.
learning process. And I like
Right.
a photo or a group of photos to tell a story. That's
Mm-hmm.
something like there was an incident in Kamchatka when
Mm-hmm.
when a bear cub came running
Mm-hmm.
towards us. We were sitting there on the ground.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then our guide told us that this is the one last cub left of the litter. Other two have
Uh-huh.
already dead, and
Right.
this cub was separated from his mother.
I
So
see.
we could actually see it on his face. He came within 5 feet of us, and
Wow.
then he looked at us and probably realized that we were not going to be of much help. So he went to a nearby tree, climbed up
Mm-hmm.
that tree, and
Mm-hmm.
then from the top of the tree, he was looking for his mother. And he was there for nearly 5 full minutes on the tree.
Right.
When he
Right.
finally saw his mother somewhere, he came slithering down and ran so fast to her. It was
Uh,
an
uh,
amazing sight. I mean, I have a series of photos which actually depict the entire story of finally how the mother took him in her
right.
arms,
Right.
and
Right.
beautiful.
Was this near the waiting bridge? I mean, the watchtower?
Yes, yes, yes.
Ah, okay,
Very
okay,
close.
okay. Fantastic. One of my favorite places in the world. Just
Yeah.
being there, sitting and watching the bears do the thing. I do know that you are very passionate about animals. You do have a lot of time that you invest in taking care of, dogs, especially. I know you're very passionate about it. So tell us a little bit about your, contribution to the kennel clubs, and of course how you help stray dogs and stuff like that. I do know there's a lot that I don't know yet.
Yeah, there are a lot of things I do currently. I mean, even
Hmm.
during this entire lockdown period, when the stray
Hmm.
dogs were deprived of their regular source of food, mainly
Hmm.
from all the tapris and chaiwalas and the small eateries who used to give
Hmm.
them something to eat.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we actually avoided the dogs shifting from there. All dogs are like basically territorial.
True.
They will not like
Hmm.
to move from their territory. But
True.
if they
Hmm.
don't get food, they have no
Hmm.
option but to move. And
Right.
that's when
Mhm.
they become aggressive, they become feral, and things can take a turn for bad.
Right. Right. Hmm.
So that's when we actually got together in Pune and formed groups right across the city.
Right.
And
Hmm.
we were feeding rural areas. We had a dog feeders pass from the Pune police,
Hmm.
and a lot of
Hmm.
police who used to patrol the chowks and other areas, to
Hmm.
avoid people from roaming around. We used to
Hmm.
leave some dog food with them.
Right. Hmm.
Then these dogs used to go to the police, and the police used to feed them.
I see.
So
Hmm.
that way,
Hmm.
all the dogs stayed where they were. No
Right.
one moved
Right.
from their place.
Sure.
And
Hmm.
we keep doing this. We keep catching dogs, get them sterilized,
Hmm.
basically give them food and look after their medical needs.
Right. Right. I do know that you also have these adoption camps or stuff like that.
That's
You
true.
keep.
We used to have adoption camps every alternate month, but
Hmm. Hmm.
since last year, March,
Hmm.
there has been only one
Okay. Okay.
because of
Hmm.
the pandemic.
Right.
But
Right.
even now, from by word of mouth and stuff like that, in fact, I call our house a sort of a transit place. In
Right.
last
Hmm.
1 year,
Hmm.
I've had about 120 puppies coming to my house in transit
Oh, I see. Hmm. Hmm.
till they got
Hmm.
a good home.
Right.
And
Hmm.
a lot of people, a lot of volunteers, they come with the puppies to my place to get them photographed. They keep telling me, sir, your photographs make a difference. A lot of adopters want to adopt these dogs.
Nice. Sure, sure. And I also know that you and your wife, sometimes you've told me that you take turns to travel so that, one of them is always at home, to take care of them. And, she probably has a different style of traveling. She's into trekking and hikes and all, right? So can we know a little
That's
bit
true.
about her,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah, she does a lot of hiking and trekking. She's been to Everest Base Camp and Annapurna Base Camps and stuff like that.
Right.
Whereas I did my first ever trek beginning of this year in the month of Jan. And that was the Chadar trek.
Right. Oh my
Not
God.
because Chadar trek is supposed to be one of the toughest treks in Ladakh.
True.
And not because of anything else, because someone just told me it's a fantastic place to do photography.
Right.
So
true. Beautiful landscape.
Beautiful landscape. And you're walking on ice. It's only the temperature is killing. When you're sleeping in -32 in a tent on the bank of a river which is frozen.
Right.
-32 is like, everything freezes.
True. Absolutely.
Till then, I managed to get up at midnight, put the camera on a tripod on the river, which was frozen, of course.
Right.
Do some night photography, stars and stuff like that. And
right.
It's fun.
Fantastic.
But my wife does mainly trekking. She doesn't have the patience of a photographer.
True. I know that. Yeah. Right. So, good in one way that, you both can have a little contrast in your interests. So it'll balance out very well. So what about conservation? Do you think people like you who are not conservationists, but do have a passion for wildlife, travel the world, bring back stories, photos, somebody like me as well, do you think we have a role to play in the larger goal of conservation, or do you think conservation is mostly done by biologists and scientists who go to the national parks?
Not really. I mean, that's probably something which I would have been thinking on those lines maybe 15, 20 years back. But now I feel that photographers do play a very, very important role.
Right.
Because they are the one who can showcase the perspective and the perfect pictures, rather, to the general public.
Right.
So actually, even in my case, I started off as a pure photographer. I had no other interest besides pure photography. But then when you go on these kind of tours and you go and meet people, you meet the biologists, you meet ecologists, and then you start learning. Then you start not just looking through your eyes, but start listening to the sounds in the jungle, and start understanding the whole, life and something
natural
like
history.
in the jungle book, natural history.
Right.
So that's when it gets to you.
Right.
And probably it's something which is inherent in, like, I'm talking about I will tell you, share a very small episode in my childhood. When I was 15 or something, I had actually went to one of the Juna Bazars, they call in Pune, Old Bazaar, and purchased some lenses, not camera lenses, but lenses used for making a microscope.
I see.
And I had actually made a microscope at home.
Oh.
I made a microscope at home when I was like 15 years old. And then I wanted to see an ant through the microscope. Then I looked at the line of ants going around in the garden or outside somewhere, and I couldn't kill any of them. I said, I was looking for an ant who would die of natural causes.
Right.
So people laughed at me, I said, I don't want to kill an ant. Yeah.
Right.
So that's something probably, I would say is love towards all living beings on the planet.
Right. Absolutely.
And how now I'm learning from friends, from ecologists and stuff like that, how it affects the entire, the chain or the,
Right. Absolutely. And an exhibition like what you did probably, spreads that message to hundreds and hundreds of kids who might get to, start appreciating this when they grow up. They'll probably do the same, and it's a cascading effect, which is what is needed in the future generations for our planet, I guess.
Yes.
So where would you like to travel next? Any wish list, any destination which is on your radar right now?
If you look at the pandemic, on the radar is getting out of home.
True.
I know.
True.
On the radar, I would love to go to Botswana.
Right. Mhm.
Namibia,
Mhm.
maybe.
Mhm.
And I haven't really thought of much other
Too much.
places yet, but I
Sure.
won't mind going back to, Svalbard again.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, who would mind going back to
Yes,
Svalbard
yeah.
again? Absolutely. So, I'm sure since you had exhibitions and people, came and approached you and they would have seen some stuff, I'm sure even now there'll be a lot of youngsters, beginners who'll keep asking you questions. How to start photography? Where do you, get to learn? How do you travel? How do you become a professional? Do you have any advice for youngsters or beginners or even elders who are just getting into photography?
The advice is because first of all, photography is an expensive hobby or
Mhm.
passion for that matter.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
if you want to pursue something seriously, something
Mhm.
that will not only help the people around you, but also
Right.
yourself as a
Mhm.
person, even during
Mhm.
your work or even after your retirement.
Right.
I would say that to do something, you have to go into it fully. Don't do
Right.
things don't take half measures.
Right. Mhm.
You take a photo.
True.
You may have,
Mhm.
don't go by the number of likes on your social media accounts.
Mhm. Mhm.
You be your own critic first
Mm.
and you try and figure out what went wrong. You can be your best critic,
Right.
or what you could have done to improve that photograph, or
True.
what would you have been, instead of just getting, for example, getting the face of the tiger perfectly sharp focused. I would have
Mhm.
been probably happier having got the tiger in the habitat, show the
Right.
habitat around the tiger,
True.
or
True.
things, or for example, in a polar bear case,
Mhm.
there is one thing to look at a polar bear close up coming towards
Mm.
you. I got
Mhm.
that photo, but also I
Right.
would still prefer a photo which shows the entire expanse of the North Arctic near the North Pole, with
Right.
polar bear searching for his next
Seals and
meal. Yeah.
Mhm. True. True.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure I'll when I post this, there'll be a lot more questions. There'll be people asking. I'm sure you will not just inspire beginners who are young, but also people who are probably contemporary to your age and will also probably want to get into travel and photography and stuff like that. So any things you'd like to add before we conclude this rendezvous of sorts?
All I can say is if you're going to really get hooked onto photography, do it.
Hmm.
It's a fantastic journey.
Right. Absolutely.
And it
Absolutely.
brings more joy to you than anyone else. And that's what is needed for you to be calm and be happy, even in these
Right.
times. So even
Right.
in these times, I am most of the time in my garden or in my terrace, and I have so many bird activities happening around my garden. I'm
Sure.
happy to have assisted in deliveries of lots of birds in my house.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
So
Anyway, hmm. Yeah, go ahead,
I
please.
would,
Yeah.
I would just say that anyone who wants to pursue this, do it. And
Hmm.
it's not a question of what equipment to use, frankly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even if you start doing it with your cell phone, for that matter, forget
Hmm.
about a proper camera.
Right.
You
Right.
try and improve your cell phone photography to start with.
True.
You
True.
know,
Hmm.
so the
True.
equipment always comes later. First
Right.
is to try and improve your art,
Right.
be it
Hmm.
cell phone or be it whatever camera you have. And
Hmm.
then as you get to learn things, the nuances of finer things in photography and nature,
Hmm.
it's time when you can decide whether to invest in something more,
Right.
because that is always going to be a limiting factor probably for most.
True. 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 Yeah. Thank you very much, Captain. For us as a little company, it's being an extremely testing times. We have been really trying hard to hold back and stay there. We do know that once things are all okay, we'll be probably getting back to even half as glorious as it used to be during the past. But grateful for people like you who have supported us all this while, and I do hope I'll see you sometime in a trip nearby, somewhere in the near future as well. So thank you very much for your time and all your thoughts, and I'll keep you posted about what's happening. You take care, and you stay safe from this madness out there.
Thank you, Jayant, and thanks. I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak out.
My pleasure.
Thanks
My pleasure.
again.
Thank
Bye
thank
bye.
you, Captain. Bye.